Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Great America Show. It's great to have you with us. I hope you are all having a great day. Your days are about to get better now that you're here with us here on the Great America Show. As always, we appreciate you spending part of your day with us on this show. The 2020 election, it's something that the Marxist Dems and the rhinos in the party, they want to put in the rearview mirror because, they don't want to talk about stolen elections or anything that's happened or the consequences of stolen elections or what was done to Donald Trump for the last 4 years because of a stolen election. Well, Kash Patel, he's been getting a bad rep lately, but he's got some good news out today. Kash Patel has handed Congress an intelligence report that raises concerns that China mass-produced fraudulent American driver's license for fake mail-in ballots during the 2020 election. Just the News, John Solomon, good friend of the show, said that Patel handed the information over to the Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Chuck Grassley, who had raised concern that the FBI intelligence had not been fully vetted, even though he believed there was evidence of fake licenses being used. Now, this is from the FBI. This isn't from some sham. It's about time we start talking about the 2020 election. I think Donald Trump needs to get focused on it. He needs to assure that it never happens again to another Republican in this country. The Democrats will steal as many elections as they deem necessary to retain and control power as they seem necessary. So we need to get serious about it and ensure that it never happens again to another person, Republican or Democrat. But they're the ones who are doing it, so it's mostly to Republicans. The issue of Iran and Israel, President Trump tweeting out on Truth Social earlier today that America now has complete control over the skies of Iran, as he has Iran in a very, very vulnerable position. President Trump, of course, leaving the G7 early yesterday, get back to D.C. to get some work. He didn't really care to stay for the dinners and to schmooze with people that don't like him. And quite frankly, he doesn't like them. Emmanuel Macron, of course, getting involved, as he usually does, telling reporters after President Trump left the G Summit, quote, I want people to be safe. And President Trump is heading back to D.C. to work on what he called it was a ceasefire. President Trump not taking lightly to Macron not knowing anything. President Trump posting on Truth Social, quote, publicly speaking, President Emmanuel Macron of France mistakenly said that I left the G7 in Canada to go back to D.C. to work on, quote, a ceasefire between Israel and Iran. Wrong. He has no idea why I'm on my way to Washington, but it certainly has nothing to do with a ceasefire. Much bigger than that. So Macron, President Trump finishing, Emmanuel always gets it wrong. Stay tuned. And as President Trump has said, they're working on something much bigger than that. President Trump making it clear that Iran is to never get a nuclear weapon to be used on the world. So much to talk about today, folks. Our guest, weekly favorite here on the Great America Show, the great Roger Stone. We're going to take up all of this going on in Iran. What's going on here at home? The ICE raids are continuing. President Trump not slowing them down, only ramping them up. There's so much to talk about today here on the Great America Show.
You're still looking good.
I'm still feeling good. I've got all your MyPillow products. Mattress topper, bed sheets, MyPillows, towels, slippers, blankets.
I'm interrupting this commercial to do something I've never done before. Get 2 MyPillows absolutely free on orders of $100 or more. I can't do this forever, so get on board with this great sale today. Our best-selling 6-piece bath towel sets or kitchen towel sets, just $29.98. Our famous standard MyPillows only $14.98. Queens $18.98. King size only $1 more. Body pillows $29.98. Multi-use MyPillow 2.0s with pillowcase $9.98. Save $40 on our Spring Percale and Giza Dream bedsheet sets. Any size, any color. So go to MyPillow.com or call that number on your screen. Use your promo code to save up to 80% on all MyPillow products. And when you spend $100 or more, get 2 standard MyPillows absolutely free.
Roger, as always, it's great to have you with us on the Great America Show. I love the outfit. Let's start with first, Trump leaving the G7 early, but it wasn't before. Just about every single person in that place kissed his butt, including Carney. Let's take a listen to the new leader of Canada.
Nostalgia isn't a strategy. We have to change with the times and to build a better world. And some of you, such as you, Mr. President, have anticipated these massive changes and are taking bold measures to address them. All of us around this table are reinforcing our militaries and security services for the new world. But we all know that there can be no security without economic prosperity, and no prosperity without resilience. And in a world where shocks flow across the borders, that resilience comes from cooperation around, that starts around.
What do you make of it, Roger?
Well, America's back because we have a new leader. Can you imagine anybody kissing Joe Biden's butt like that? I mean, the president has made it very clear that he prefers commerce over chaos. The Brits have now signed a beneficial tariff agreement. In the end, they all will. That is, of course, unless the U.S. courts get in the way and say the president of the United States doesn't have the authority to negotiate tariff agreements with other countries, which some obscure court that no one ever heard of, the Court of International Trade in Manhattan, New York, tried to say the president couldn't do. I mean, these people are really ridiculous. It's amazing the way the president dominated the entire G6 proceedings. I love the look on his face because he looks amused at these people. He just looks vaguely and faintly amused. I think that he is 10 years ago, yesterday, he came down the golden escalator, which, for me was the fulfillment of an idea and a dream that I'd had since 1988. That's when I first recognized that Trump had the stature and the energy and particularly the independence and the courage to be not just a great presidential candidate, but also a truly great president. And I've been more than proven right. Just if he'd only served one term, I would have been proven right. But now I think a much, much wiser Donald Trump in a second term is fulfilling, all of my expectations in spades in terms of closing the border, deporting dangerous illegals, renegotiating all of these one-sided trade deals where we were disadvantaged, cutting taxes, cutting regulation. That's very important. I think people lose sight of it. Giving Robert F. Kennedy Jr. the authority he needs to make America healthy again. I mean, he really is fulfilling, everything he's promised us. And now, of course, he has this very thorny problem of Iran and what to do about it. I guess my view here is, first of all, I'm not going to react to what I see on Twitter or X. I want to hear what the president's doing from the president himself when he's ready to tell us. Yesterday, there's so many conflicting reports. On the one hand, he's telling people to abandon Tehran. Then others are saying that he's told our allies that we will not attack Iran unless U.S. interests are directly attacked. John, I really don't know what to think. Here's what I do know, and that is he has more information than I do. I owe my life to him. I will support whatever decision he makes. I myself, more of a non-interventionist, more along the lines of Ron Paul and those who say we should not get involved. On the other hand, to pretend that the regime is not evil, to pretend that whenever they get a nuclear device, that they won't share it with their crazy proxies, Hamas and Hezbollah and the Houthis, is unrealistic. And I don't believe they'll ever give this up in negotiation. I think they were stalling, buying time, waiting for the UN resolutions to expire. But I don't think they'll ever really give up the bomb and use nuclear just for electricity and other peaceful purposes. So I'll stick with the president when he makes a decision, but I don't think he's made one yet.
Yeah, we're going to get to that. I want to just talk briefly back about the G7, but as it relates to this, is you've got guys like Macron telling Trump what to do in Iran and what to do with this. The day Trump ever took any advice from that man who gets beat up by his wife is probably the last day that President Trump will be in office. That man has never gotten anything right, and he continues to get everything wrong. But it was funny to see President Trump's got this weird way, and you've known him far longer than I have. He's got this weird way of when he gets into a room with people who don't like him, making them feel as uncomfortable as possible. And he gets to that meeting with Carney and his wife, you could tell, clearly not happy to see President Trump. And Trump looks to Carney and he goes, there was a 100% chance of rain over the weekend in D.C. 100% chance. It didn't rain one bit. And Carney's sitting there like, what the hell is he talking about? The wife's sitting there like, what the hell is he talking about? But he gets these people into a position where they're like, nobody can read, nobody could understand what his next move is. And I think that is just so brilliant from a world leader.
Well, this is one of the things that I first saw in 1988 is this presence. He has presence. So when I refer to his size, I obviously don't mean his physical size, although obviously he's very tall and broad-shouldered. But I'm talking about his stature, his ability to not only fill a room, but to dominate the room. And he has, as you point out, his own way of communicating. He calls it weaving, which I think is interesting. And he knows those people don't like him. He knows that they're elitist snobs who resent the fact that he was elected, and they probably preferred dealing, with Joe Biden, who was non-compos mentis, who was literally a vegetable. I don't know, a cabbage maybe. I'm not sure which vegetable, but a vegetable. Cucumber, perhaps. And they could push him around. They clearly see their efforts to push him on the war in Ukraine are not working. And I think they're very, very frustrated that America is now playing the role we were meant to play. I'll tell you one thing they resent, the fact that he's made them all pay up in terms of their past due NATO dues. I mean, we were carrying all of these countries, Germany, France, Italy. We were carrying them as if they don't have the money when they do have the money. And even in his first term, I think he brought in 600.
Roger, we're the ones who don't have the money. Right. We're dead broke.
Well, we're 37 trillion in debt or something like that. But that's all on paper because our money's not backed by anything anyway. Yeah.
Well, that brings up the point. They never did that Fort Knox gold tour. I guess they were worried about what Menendez got to before he. By the way, I think he heads to jail today.
He does. So much, by the way, for the reports, which I think I broke the story. He definitely made an effort to reach out to Trump for a pardon. For sure. As did the guy who supplied the gold. Neither one of them will get pardoned. I don't think either one was even seriously considered for a pardon. But you raise an excellent point. Elon raised that. No one has seen the gold at Fort Knox or at the New York Federal Reserve, which is where the rest of the gold is supposed to be, since 1974. And then it was in the news cycle, and then it suddenly disappeared. And Elon, who I like, who I think did great things for this country, first in establishing the premier free speech social media site in the country, and then through Doge, where he absolutely proved that there was not millions, not billions, but trillions of dollars in waste, fraud, and corruption. But above all, exposing the complete fraud of USAID, which is nothing but a slush fund for the radical left, in which they pay for every kind of crazy political scheme and plot you can imagine, not to mention a large number of circumcisions that I don't think they ever really paid for. So, but Elon was going to go inspect the gold as part of his Doge mission, and then just didn't hear anything more about it, which makes me believe that the gold is not there, that the gold has somehow been dissipated or stolen. The irony of that, of course, is if that were true, it wouldn't affect the value of our currency at all because our currency is no longer backed to gold. This was, of course, my mentor, Richard Nixon's, probably his single greatest mistake. Whenever I write something favorable about Nixon, I did a piece 2 days ago about the crucial role Nixon played in saving Israel from complete annihilation in the 1973 Yom Kippur War. People always say, yeah, but he took us off the gold standard. This is the biggest mistake. Well, yes, I agree. I've written 2 books on Richard Nixon. It's prominent in both books. I agree. It was among his greatest mistakes. But I'll tell you what was not among his greatest mistakes, and that was reaching out to China. So those who say, oh, well, Nixon's responsible for China's threat to America today. No, at the time, China was a dirt poor, agrarian society with no technology. They didn't even have indoor plumbing. Most people didn't have toilets. The rural areas did not have electricity. There was no way for Nixon to see that 30 years later, Bill Clinton would not only give them most favored nation trading status, but he would also sell them for illegal campaign contributions our missile targeting technology in the so-called Loral scandal. So you cannot blame Richard Nixon for the danger that China poses us today. He had no way of looking 30 years into the future to see that we were going to supply them with the technology to make them a dangerous country.
The gold standard is an interesting one because we wouldn't be nearly $40 trillion in debt today if our money was backed by gold, because eventually you'd run out of gold for how much money that these people were spending.
I hear every day about the products you all wish MyPillow carried. Well, guess what? We probably do. Slippers, bathrobes, pet beds, blankets, mattresses, sleepwear, loungewear, duvets, comforters, pot holders, aprons, oven mitts, and so much more. And they're all on sale. For example, get our best-selling standard MyPillows for only $14.98. Body pillows, $29.98. 6-piece bath towels or kitchen towel sets, just $29.98. Multi-use MyPillow 2.0s with pillowcase, $9.98. Save $40 on our Spring Percale and Giza Dream bedsheet sets. Any size, any color, and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save up to 80% on all MyPillow products. And I've never done this before. When you spend $100 or more, you're going to get 2 standard MyPillows absolutely free.
I want to turn to this whole Iran, Israel, and now America conflict. A few months ago, someone you admire greatly, and I admire greatly, Tulsi Gabbard, testified before a Senate committee that Iran was not at the point of getting a nuclear weapon yet. And then President Trump saying today or earlier this morning on Air Force One, he doesn't care what she has to say. Let's roll the clip.
Iran's cyber operations and capabilities also present a serious threat to U.S. networks and data. The IC continues to assess that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon, and Supreme Leader Khamenei has not authorized the nuclear weapons program that he suspended in 2003. The IC continues to monitor closely if Tehran decides to reauthorize its nuclear weapons program. In the past year, we've seen an erosion of a decades-long taboo in Iran on discussing nuclear weapons in public, likely emboldening nuclear weapons advocates within Iran's decision-making apparatus. Iran's enriched uranium stockpile is at its highest levels and is unprecedented for a state without nuclear weapons. Iran will likely continue efforts to counter Israel and press for U.S. military withdrawal from the region by aiding, arming, and helping to reconstitute its loose consortium of like-minded terrorists and militant actors, which it refers to as its axis of resistance. Although weakened, this collection of actors still presents a wide range of threats, including to Israel's population, U.S. forces deployed in Iraq and Syria, and to U.S. and international military and commercial shipping and transit.
So Tulsi, that's a few months ago. President Trump this morning saying he doesn't care. So, I'm sort of in the middle with you. I don't know what the plan is, Roger. I don't know what should be done. If I did, I wouldn't be doing this. I'd be in the Pentagon. There's an issue, clearly. Iran can never have a nuclear weapon. But at the same time, how many regimes does America have to overturn and overthrow before it's enough? Afghanistan, Iraq. I mean, the list goes on and on. Syria. Is this a war that America should be fighting?
Actually, I think it's a war that Israel should be fighting. On the other hand, that was a very sober and I think balanced report by Tulsi Gabbard. She doesn't say they're not dangerous. She doesn't say they don't have enriched uranium. In fact, she says they have the highest level of it they've ever had. All she says is that we don't believe they are close to having a bomb. The president contradicted that this morning. I'm assuming that his intelligence is coming from Israel. But then, John, as you pointed out off camera, Netanyahu just blurts out that the Iranians tried twice to kill Trump. We don't know that. Let's
roll that. We got that clip. Let's roll that for the audience. He was on with Brett Baer yesterday.
I want to talk about the nuclear threat, and I want to talk about President Trump. You just said Iran tried to assassinate President Trump twice. Do you have intel that the assassination attempts on President Trump were directly from Iran?
Through proxies, yes. Through their intel, yes. They want to kill him. Look, he's enemy number one. He's a decisive leader. He never took the path that others took to try to bargain with them in a way that is weak, giving them basically a pathway to enrich uranium, which means a pathway to the bomb, padding it with billions and billions of dollars. He took up this fake agreement and basically tore it up. He killed Qasem Soleimani. He said, made it very clear, including now, you cannot have a nuclear weapon, which means you cannot enrich. He's been very forceful. So for them, he's enemy number one.
Yeah.
Look, they also tried to kill me, but I'm his junior partner.
When did
they
you
understand?
So he says that they try to kill him with no evidence, doesn't support anything he says. Does Iran want Donald Trump dead? I'd say definitively yes, just based on what he's done. Not what he's done. It's great what he's done with stifling these people. But you're going to tell me, Benjamin Netanyahu, that you knew that Thomas Cooks or whatever his name was, and the other guy who couldn't get through the gate to try to shoot Trump on the golf course, were going to shoot Trump, but you didn't know, your intel didn't tell you that October 7th was going to happen inside your country. It just smells to high heaven to me, Roger.
Yeah, and you notice his answer was very vague, and he moved off of it very quickly. I mean, look, the FBI tells me that the Iranians hacked my email prior to the election. Simply because I was in touch with a number of people inside the Trump campaign.
Yeah.
I, by the way, found no evidence of that at all. Just couldn't find it within my email. I don't doubt that I was hacked, but I'm not sure it was by the Iranians. Yeah. Somebody tried to kill Donald Trump. The one guy, Ryan Routh, clearly has ties to Ukraine. Yeah. Not Iran, but Ukraine. And I had a number of sources who came to me that said they actually met him in Ukraine. They actually confronted him in Ukraine. I think that is much more likely. If there is foreign involvement in the two attempts to kill Donald Trump, I think it is far more likely has to do with the Ukraine war. But again, I don't know. Hopefully, Kash Patel has a better view on this than we do. But to me, that was a talking point. Also, calling himself a junior partner. I mean, this guy is really sucking up big time in his efforts to try to manipulate Donald Trump, who is, of course, the master manipulator himself. And when it comes to getting his way and to the way he has an uncanny ability to read people. He can read people extremely well. I don't think this idea that he can be forced to do anything he doesn't want to do, those people don't know the Donald Trump that I know. And I think he's faced with some very tough decisions here. But again, I'm glad that it's Trump and not Joe Biden or, God forbid, Kamala Harris making those decisions right now.
Yeah, I used to joke with Lou. I called it mind warfare. And Lou and Donald were very, very similar. And Trump used to joke with him all the time about how similar they were. It's a way to get into people's heads to understand their rationale and their thinking. And it's a skill to have. It's not something that everyone has. Donald Trump and Lou Dobbs are two of the only people that I know that I can think of that have this capability to get inside someone's head to get them to reveal what they're actually thinking, whether it be, their inner ego or whatever it may be. It's truly fascinating. So, I mean, where do we go from here? Do you think Donald Trump has rejected getting involved in this war? And like you, I'm on both sides. I am under the opinion that Iran should be wiped off the face of the earth, but I'm not convinced it should be yet. Do we wait for them to launch a weapon, or do we launch a weapon? It's a tough position to be in. It's definitely not an easy one to be in. But at the same time, I look and I say to myself, Israel launched all these attacks. Why didn't they use their full capability? I had Doug McGregor on the show the other day, and he said, this is a small-scale attack comparatively to what it should have been. And if they don't follow up in it, it's going to pose a very big problem for Israel. Why launch such a small-scale attack on them and not go for the kill?
Yeah, as you know, I also had Colonel McGregor on my show. It was a very good interview. I mean, there is a serious question as to whether the Fordow nuclear facility where they're allegedly building the bomb can be taken out technologically by the Israelis. That some military experts say that only we have the 30,000-pound bunker buster bomb capable of doing that. Colonel McGregor said he's not even sure that we have that capability. But my guess is that's what Netanyahu is trying to urge the president to do. I tend to agree with General Flynn. Give the Israelis anything they need, anything they want, but we ourselves should not be directly involved in attacking Iran unless it is certain to be ending. What we cannot afford is another long-range, ongoing, forever war where we end up committing troops and dollars. Colonel McGregor made a very good point, is that we're broke. And we have spent a huge amount of our military capability, I should say, sent an enormous amount of our military capability to Ukraine. We will be out of missiles here pretty quickly. These drones that they're using cost about $20,000, whereas intercontinental ballistic missile cost $3.5-4 million, as I understand it. So we are not in the strong position that everyone believes we are, although we're not in a weak position. So I'm with you. I'm kind of somewhere here in the middle. I do support Israel. I do support their right to defend themselves. I do recognize the Iranian regime is very dangerous. People who don't even support Israel's attack, I don't understand that either.
Yeah,
I do support Israel, their right to defend themselves. And as for Iran wanting to kill Donald Trump, their leading mullah made a statement 2 days ago calling for the assassination of Trump, Vance, every cabinet member, and all their families. So there's no doubt about that in terms of their intent. Whether they were really involved in the 2 assassination attempts, I don't think we have any proof of that, and I don't think Netanyahu does either.
Yeah, and you know what? You can be on that side of that, and I'm in total agreement with you, where you support Israel, but you don't want American troops on the ground. It doesn't make you anti-Semitic. It doesn't make you anti-Israel. But we've seen, Roger, in the last 25 years, how many of our children, how many of our brothers and sisters brought back here in body bags. It's not America. 77 million Americans didn't vote for that. They don't want that. They don't want troops on the ground in foreign countries. We have a war here at home, Roger, on our southern border. One where our troops, we can assure that they're protected as well as possible right here in our country, protecting our border rather than sending them overseas. We need to start taking care of America and Americans before we continue to be the world's police. And like you said, I don't disagree that we should be giving Israel everything they need to defeat these Islamic terrorists who want America dead, who have said they will turn America into, nuclear ash, I think is what Khamenei said a few years ago. But I don't think President Trump is at that point yet. In fact, he just tweeted out earlier today, quote, "We know exactly where the so-called supreme leader is hiding. He's an easy target, but he is safe there. We're not going to take him out," and then in parentheses, "kill, at least not for now, but we don't want missiles shot at civilians or American soldiers. Our patience is wearing thin. Thank you for your attention to this matter." And I think he's riffing with Tucker Carlson right now. I think they want the same exact things. They just have a different approach to how they're going. And it doesn't make Tucker Carlson a bad guy. It doesn't make people bad because you don't want war. It doesn't make you a rhino. And usually, Roger, I'm on the side of whatever Lindsey Graham is for, I'm against. And Lindsey Graham is all for this.
Oh, yeah, he wants to go all in, but then I guess he always likes it all in. I don't know. Look, he's
Is that where you get the name Lady G?
I'm not going there.
You already went there.
With a little nuance, perhaps. Look, Trump is a man who means what he says and says what he means. He gave them 60 days. They didn't come to the table and make a deal within 60 days. And the 61st day, he told the Israelis to go ahead, and they did. And to claim that they didn't do serious damage, they clearly did. They killed a number of the top leaders. I think they really disrupted the command and control of the Iranians. On the other hand, Iran bounced back. It was more resilient than I think people expected, experts expected. And we shouldn't pretend that the Chinese or the Pakistanis are just going to sit on the sidelines here and do nothing. China is still getting most of its oil from Iranian sources. Now, I think it is much easier to degrade their oil capability, their energy production capabilities. I think we probably already disrupted that substantially. When I say we, Israel, I mean Israel. And I think Israel can do more damage there. On the other hand, the Iron Dome, which so far had proven to be quite effective. As you know, John, some Iranian missiles did get through their missile defense system and did some damage. No report on the casualties there. One of the pieces that people miss when they criticize the big, beautiful bill, which is absolutely crucial for us to pass, because without it, we get a 68% increase in federal taxes overnight for every American, not just for the wealthy, for every American. But also in that bill is the funding for our own strategic defense initiative, which Trump has called the Golden Dome. This is something that I have supported since Reagan was president. They used to make fun of us and call it Star Wars. The technology is far more sophisticated now, of course, than it was then. But it has worked to a great extent for Israel, and I think it will work for us. Clearly, the technology is not perfect, but we don't know what technology they're utilizing. We don't know whether the technology that Trump would use would be superior.
Yeah.
Congress has actually voted for much of this funding, but Biden then just dragged his feet in terms of implementing it. We should put the one for the East Coast should be at Fort Drum in New York, upstate New York, for example. This is something Elise Stefanik's been really, really strong on, and she's absolutely right about. So yet another reason why the big, beautiful bill, which is far from perfect. I mean, there's a lot of stuff in there I don't like, particularly this AI restrictions on states regulating the use of AI for 10 years. That's troubling. There's a number of smaller things in there that are troubling. But again, this isn't the final version. What the House will pass is not the final version. And these things can be worked out in conference and also in the Senate.
Yeah, I'm partially sold on the what Trump calls the Golden Dome. I think it makes sense in some cases. In some cases, it doesn't. It's going to be hard to put it across the whole United States. Does it make sense to put it around our biggest cities, New York and California and L.A.? Yeah, absolutely. That's probably where you want it. You want it put around our power grids or, wherever they get it. But at the end of the day, it's only good for, surface missiles, right? Missiles that are coming from the water. So they got to get close enough.
I'm glad that you brought up California because I was this guy, Alex Padilla, the almost unidentifiable senator from California. And I assume that Gavin Newsom purposely appointed a bland non-entity to the Senate seat because he didn't want to be overshadowed. He's got enough competition for the 2028 presidential nomination in Kamala Harris, because if she chooses to run again, she's the instant front runner.
For sure.
She could be governor of California if she chooses to be, which is sad, but I'm afraid true.
Yeah.
And she immediately overshadows him, even though he's more articulate than she is. His move to the center, where he had, Steve Bannon and Charlie Kirk on his podcast, he quickly abandoned that to now go back and redefine himself as the anti-Trump. He hopes to raise his profile and kind of rebuild his disastrous political situation by rebranding himself as the anti-Trump. Otherwise, the guy would have to run on his record. And if you look at California, California is essentially a flaming wreck at this point. It could be the world's largest outdoor toilet. Between crime and homelessness and drug abuse and taxes. And these are people who couldn't put out a massive fire because they turned off the water in order to save a tiny fish from extinction. That's how politically correct they are. But this guy's actions in the briefing by Kristi Noem are really ominous. I mean, if you're a U.S. senator and you want to ask a cabinet member questions, you can call her up and she'll take your call.
Yeah.
You can set up a meeting and she'll be happy to meet with you. This guy is such a nondescript non-entity, and his physical reactions are, if you watch the video, and I've watched it now several times, I mean, he's menacing her. Yeah. And nobody recognizes him as a U.S. senator. He says, well, it was on my polo shirt. Yes, but he's wearing a jacket over his polo shirt. So the fact that it's on his shirt is immaterial. And here's the weirdest part. If you go look at the guy they just arrested in Michigan, I guess it is, or Minnesota, Minnesota, who assassinated a number of their state leaders, he looks just like Alex Padilla. I mean, these guys look like to be brothers. That whole thing is very weird. By the way, it's an act. He knew what he was doing. This was an attempt to get publicity and get attention. And he's not just shouting a question at her. He's trying to lunge forward. And he has to be stopped. And he's warned several times, and he keeps coming. So he deserved to get handcuffed.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. California's going to hell in a handbasket. It's crazy because this whole administration is so transparent. I can't think of a last time I've seen a president of the United States like posting text messages. You can get the guy on the phone. You can text message the president, and he responds. I mean, you know better than anyone. There was a text from you on a screen, him getting off Air Force One. There's nobody more easily accessible as a president of the United States than Donald Trump and his administration. So it's sad that these people have to stoop to these new lows, and it all has to do with these ICE raids. Roger, a new poll out from Harvard Harris, who's Marxist Dem left, that they did just last week. 56, a margin of 12 points. 56% say they support the decision to send in these ICE raids and the National Guard to help these people. This is what the American people voted for. These Marxist Dems, if they don't support it, they should just sit back for their own good.
Well, and they continue to insist that there's no need. I mean, they continue to insist that the demonstrations in California are peaceful when we can see with our own eyes, cars on fire, ICE agents being assaulted, people throwing rocks, bottles, chunks of concrete, baggies full of urine and feces at ICE officers and other law enforcement officers. The president is completely within his right. First of all, he made a sound judgment to send in the National Guard. And then Gavin Newsom sues him immediately, saying he doesn't have that authority because Newsom, as governor, didn't ask for the National Guard. Well, let me give you a hint, Gavin. Orville Faubus, the segregationist governor of Arkansas, didn't call for the National Guard when Eisenhower sent the National Guard into Arkansas to support desegregation of the schools. John F. Kennedy didn't get the permission or a request from Governor George Wallace, the segregationist governor of Alabama, when he sent the National Guard in to support the desegregation of the schools there. The president does not require a request or the acquiescence of a governor to activate the National Guard. So that lawsuit was a waste of time. It was a showboating to try to build Gavin Newsom's national profile for a presidential bid. Absolutely absurd. And by the way, the situation in LA, based on everything I've seen and read, seems to be getting worse, not better.
Yeah. So
the riots the night before last, the riots around a federal courthouse, which the National Guard and the Marines now have an absolute duty to protect, was getting worse and not better. And Gavin Newsom should quit pretending otherwise.
Yeah, he's a terrible, terrible person. Before we wrap up, Roger, interesting story. The NAACP has a convention every single year, and this year it's in North Carolina. For the first time in 116 years, the sitting president of the United States, being Donald Trump, of course, not being invited to it. 116 years. Now, this is President Trump, I think, performed better than any single president in the history of this country. It was like 16 or 20%, somewhere at 16 to 20%. He pulled up the black vote this time around. It seems to me like they're looking to do another summer of love and the racial divide. The only problem is these people aren't falling for it this time, in my opinion. They've woken up. And the reason being is you look at the streets of L.A., I don't see any BLM anything. Now, 2020, you saw what they did with the Summer of Love in Minneapolis. Not one BLM sign or anything on these streets in any of these riots that are happening. Do you think that their eyes have been opened, that the Democrats just want to draw a racial divide between blacks and whites and blacks and any other race in this country?
I think there's a huge dichotomy between the so-called black leadership, who are really just partisans, and African-American voters and citizens in the United States. I mean, I agree. Donald Trump is the only president who's done anything in terms of criminal justice reform, which had definitely been weaponized against people of color. Yeah. The First Step Act, the Second Chance Act, this provided real justice for people who had been caught in this web caused by the 1994 crime bill, written by racist Joe Biden, signed by Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton, who was governor of Arkansas, went to the Supreme Court to argue that racial profiling by the Arkansas State Police was perfectly all right. That Bill Clinton. This is a law that mandated the harsh penalties that were required for the first time nonviolent crime of possession of small amounts of drugs for personal use. Yeah. And that in turn was used, weaponized, to destroy the lives of hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of black people. Donald Trump is the only president in our lifetimes done anything about this. The Congressional Black Caucus, which has called for the reform of these laws for decades, almost uniformly every member votes against Trump's criminal justice reform packages simply because it was proposed by Donald Trump. Yeah. And then there's his economic record. Unemployment among black voters in the United States at all-time lows under President Donald Trump. Now you add his Platinum Plan, which is really a plan for African-American empowerment in this country. I was looking at it again yesterday because it's very much based on an old Nixonian concept of black capitalism. Trump has done more for black Americans than any president since Abraham Lincoln, and that is a fact. The so-called black leadership, NAACP, members of the Black Congressional Caucus, they don't want to admit it, but I think your average black American sees it quite clearly. And then when you have these black entertainers who have enormous social media followings saying it, recognizing some of the pardons that he's given and his actual record on criminal justice reform, I think that extends and educates a lot of black voters who would otherwise not know that this constant drumbeat of Trump is a racist, Trump is a racist, Trump is just false.
Yeah. I have a lot of black friends, Roger. My goddaughter is black, and her parents did not support Donald Trump in 2020 by any stretch of the imagination, hated the man. And this time around, it's a complete different picture. And I have to say the same for most of my other black friends as well. The turn that he's taken, because they opened up their eyes to realize that all the Democrats have tried to do for the last eternity is create a racial divide, that the Democrats are doing something for the black or Hispanic communities and the Republicans aren't. And Donald Trump is the first president to really bring this to the forefront, to show that you guys are bullshit artists and you're lying and you're nothing but bad for the black community. And Donald Trump has, as you said, a proven track record, better than Abraham Lincoln for this community. Roger, as always, it's amazing and fun to talk with you. You get the last word here.
Look,
what's happening on the Stone Zone tonight, I should say?
Thank you. So you can turn into the Stone Zone tonight, WABCRadio.com, WABCRadio.com at 8 p.m. Eastern, where we are 5 nights a week. And then, of course, on the weekends, on Sunday, 3 to 5, once again, on Sundays at WABCRadio.com. Let's face it, John, I have a face for radio. I really enjoy doing it. I enjoy being with you. In the meantime, let's pray for our president and for our nation and for our allies in Israel in this very dangerous time.
Yep. StoneZone.com. Who's your guest tonight, Roger? Do you got one?
Actually, yes, Boone Cutler is coming on. Veteran Boone Cutler. Talk to us about events in the Middle East. Also talk to us about veterans and how many veterans are benefiting from alternative medicine when it comes to dealing with PTSD.
That's amazing. I'm so in favor of that, and I talk about that all the time here on the show. Folks, that's 8 o'clock tonight, the Stone Zone. So just after you wrap up here, go have dinner, and then go join Roger, StoneZone.com if you're in New York Tri-State or Syndicate, WABCRadio.com or on your radio dial. Roger, we'll see you next week.
Thanks, John. God bless you.
God bless you, Roger. Thanks, everybody, for being with us today here on The Great America Show. We hope to see you back here tomorrow for The Great America Show, where our quest for truth, justice, and the American way, continues. Same time, same place tomorrow. I'll see you here. Till then, may God bless you, may God bless America, and may God bless the great Lou Dobbs. Have a great night, everybody.